Sit down. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Is this the greatest or what? Is this fun? Who gets that kind of a welcome at work? Anybody? No.
I do.
Hi. How are you? You doing great? Good.
I get that kind of welcome at work.
You know why?
Because you're my boss.
I'm your boss, baby. So, have you had a great time so far? Have you learned a lot? Are you inspired? Good.
Look at this beautiful team over here.
Look at that. The Dut table. All right. So, our talk is Forged in Time for Excellence. It's an interesting topic. I think it kind of rounds out the last night and a half, almost 2 nights. You know, you've heard a lot about how we change in this business. You know, I think Dennis said it last night. The highest reward for a man's dedication to excellence is not what they get from it, but what they become through it. Okay, it was a great quote that we all used to know and hear. And it's really the truth. You know, it's funny, a lot of people say, I say, what's your goal? They say, diamond. Diamond isn't really your goal. Diamond is the result of the work you do and the dedication you have and the perseverance that you have, the process that you go through. It's the result of that. So your goal is getting the process down. And I think of when I hear about forged in time, when I think about being forged, I think of a piece of hot molten steel, right? And that someone's hitting it with a hammer to mold it and shape it into maybe a knife or a sword or something, right? I think of forged in time, I think of a diamond, a piece of coal that has pressure on it for 2,000 years and it becomes a diamond. I think of people digging for gold in digging thousands of pounds of dirt or straining, standing in a river and straining thousands of gallons of water to find a piece of gold. It's that process of molding and shaping. It's that process of doing work. It's that dedication to excellence. It's the choice that you make every day that has to be a positive choice. I was saying to some people today, if you say to me, I want to go diamond, okay? Then if I'm your coach, every decision that you make from that day forward has to be a diamond decision. If you make a decision that takes away from your goal, then it's a bad decision. Now, I'm not a gym guy and I could care less. I was not there this morning. My goal or my goal was to come down and take pictures of you doing that so that I could be very proud of you as I had like a cup of coffee.
We need to reset that goal too.
Well, that was really my dream, not really my goal. I just wanted to go down there and my dream was to watch you all sweat, you know, and say, but I did my 10,000 steps today, okay? I mean, if you stay in this hotel, you do 10,000 steps getting here. You go back and forth a couple of times, it's 15,000. But we walk every day, you know, because we want to stay limber and keep those joints lubricated. So you got to walk, you got to do some stuff. So that's important. And I'm not making fun of exercise. I'm just not a, gym guy. But 2,000 squats a day. That's why he could stay on the ice longer than any other player. Because the average hockey player stays on the ice about 30 seconds. That's about all they can take when you skate 30 seconds. And these guys are in tremendous shape. So it's about forging in time for excellence is a time, it's endurance. It's doing the same thing over and over again. Many of you have read The Compound Effect, right? That's kind of what it is when you do something over and over and over and over again. The effect of doing it over and over again gives you tremendous results over a period of time. So we're going to kind of talk to you a little bit about some different things in our life to illustrate to you. You know, I thought Tony did a great job last night. Tony told a great story. Why? Well, to make you laugh a little bit, but to make you realize they're just human. We're all just human. We all have idiosyncrasies. We all have imperfections. And, you know, you've heard it tonight, great speakers, last night, great speakers. You know, are you going to let those imperfections prevent you from succeeding? Or are you going to overcome those imperfections or, in a sense, almost ignore them while you succeed and while you do the work? So, you know, Dana, when I met you, you were blessed to have parents that stood for many things that my parents didn't stand for. And it wasn't that my parents didn't love us or didn't care about us. They just were brought up differently. So, you know, maybe you could just give a little insight to your parents and your family and how it contrasted with mine.
Yeah, and like you said, I don't believe that just because my parents were different and maybe they understood things differently than your parents didn't make my parents any better than your parents. I believed your parents loved you and did the best they could. But my parents were blessed with seeming to know how to teach your children values in life that would help propel them in life for the better. And one of the most important ones, of course, I'm going to go through them quickly because it's things that we all want to strive for. And if you don't have children, when you have children. And one of the first and most important thing is mom and dad. My mom and dad. My dad passed away about 4 years ago.
3 years
Yeah.
ago.
And my mom is 94. And yep, she lived with us up until she couldn't anymore. And she lives 10 minutes. I see her every day. We see her all the time. And we have fun with her. She came home for the holidays, right?
She came home for Christmas.
Yeah.
For a few hours.
Yep.
And she's going to live a long time just to bust my chops.
Yeah. Yep, she's all her faculties. But, you know, they taught us, you know, most importantly, having integrity. And what's wrong is wrong and what's right is right. And my dad especially always, you know, emphasized that, you know, there is no in between. And as we were growing up, as I have two older sisters, and as we were growing up, he always, you know, when we would do something wrong, even if it was something little, he'd say, you know, it was something minor, he'd say, and what do you think of that? Was that right or wrong? And we'd say, well, it wasn't really that wrong, maybe a little wrong. And he'd say, but if it's wrong, it's wrong. And that's how, you know, that's what they believed, and that's how they lived their life. Accountability was another thing that they always taught us. And, you know, I see that lacking a lot in this business as we meet people where, you know, some things at 8 o'clock, we say be there by no later than 8 o'clock, and at 8:15 they're wandering in. And I always ask myself, how is that possible? Because I was taught so intently that accountability was so important, and why are you inconveniencing people because of your lack of accountability? So, and that there's consequences, and understanding that if you're not accountable, what are the consequences that follow? And in this business, it's really important, Benny, because what you're doing to your upline, your downline's going to do to you, because they see that, they watch. If you want to be an example, be the right example, be the best example. Educating yourself and being coached properly. I grew up in a family that there was a lot of music and arts, and I was a gymnast at one point, and a dancer and a musician, and we had to go to our lessons, and we had to listen to our coaches, whether we liked it or not. And that was something that my parents were really. There was no in between with that either. You know, we needed to practice. If we wanted to continue with our classes, we needed to practice, and we were not going to be able to quit our classes if we committed to them. So that was another thing, being accountable and educating ourselves and being coached. Joyfulness. You know, I remember them always saying life isn't as serious as our mind makes it. And when you really think about that, you know, looking at things and understanding that nothing is that serious. And I'm going to give you credit. At one point, I was just thinking of this today. At one point, I remember when we were going through so much in our lives, I remember Vinny looking at me and sitting me down because he saw that I was becoming overwhelmed by the bills. I was becoming overwhelmed by the creditors. And he sat me down and he said, I just want you to put it in perspective. He said, are they going to take our children away? I said, no. He said, are we going to end up on the streets? I said, no. And he went through a whole list. He went through a whole list of things. And he said, what could possibly really happen to us? Let's do what we need to do. Let's not focus on the problem. Let's focus on the solution. And that's what I started to do. And I started to do it joyfully and understanding that I could make it easier, not only for myself, but for my family if I did it joyfully, right? Achievement. My parents always taught me that we could do whatever we wanted to do, provided we set our minds to it and we put our all into it. Right? And that's within reason. Obviously, I wasn't going to be a professional basketball player. But you know, I understood that if I studied enough, if I worked enough on my instruments, if I worked enough on my voice, that I could do whatever I put my mind to. And I believed I could do that, and no one was going to tell me any differently. If someone told me that my voice wasn't good, I didn't believe them because they told me it was great. And I believed them, and I worked on it. Now, there were times when I didn't do my best, and I knew I didn't do my best. Maybe it was even in school. I remember one time my dad saying to me, hey, he said, you didn't get as good a grade. You're upset because your grade wasn't as good as you wanted it to be. And we were straight A students, all of us. But I had maybe gotten a B or B minus or whatever, but it was no less than a B. I remember my dad saying, all you have to ask yourself, Dana, and answer it correctly is, did you do the best you could do? He said, I'm happy. If you believe you did the best you could do, I'm okay with it. And I thought to myself, I didn't do the best I could do. Are you doing the best you can do in this business? Or do you really know? Are you being truthful with yourself? And then fortitude. Fortitude allows us to overcome our fear and remain resilient in whatever the fear is. You know, there's a lot of things that come in your way and distractions that come in your way, but, you know, are you able to be resilient? Are you able to plow through? We plowed through whatever it was. And we didn't allow, we had children too. Guess what? We had 2 children. And we still have 2 children.
We still have 2 children.
Still have them today. They're backstage. They're diamonds. Because they saw and they believed that we were resilient and that we would plow through and we would keep moving forward, right? We would forge ahead. And respect. Having respect for everybody, no matter where they are in life, no matter what they do in life. I remember one of the things that I asked my dad when I was about 12 years old. I said, Dad, you seem to speak differently to different people, because my dad had a vast vocabulary, a very smart man. He was a publisher at a newspaper. And I remember him saying to me, Dana, I said, you know, the way you spoke to that man is different than the way you spoke to this man. And he said, when I'm speaking to a man with a vast vocabulary, I'll speak at that level. When I'm speaking to this person over here that maybe doesn't have that kind, I don't want to embarrass them by throwing words at them that they don't understand. So I'm going to speak at their level. And I'm going to respect everyone for where they're at, because bottom line is you love everyone unconditionally. You don't judge people. And that's how we built our business. And that's what, maybe there were times that we had to learn that, hey man, we're not building this business because of the PV. We're building this people for our family, and we're building this business for the people so that they can live a better life, so that we can live a better life, but that they can live a better life. But in order to do that, you can't say, I love you, except if you don't do your PV. Right? I love you, except you didn't talk to me right. I love you unconditionally. So that's a little bit about that, and it does apply, and the reason that I wanted to talk a little bit about that is because I think it applies to where we moved in the business and what we've tried to do with each other and with our families.
And I think it sets up for what we're going to talk about the rest of the way is, when we lost our furniture business, Dana has always said it was the worst day of our life, but it was the best day of our life. But we didn't know it was the best day of our life when we lost it. It wasn't like, hey, this is great. It's the worst day of our life. And then 10 minutes later, hey, this is the best day of our life. No, it was terrible. It was 16 years of tremendous effort down the drain. I felt like I wasted 16 years of our lives. We went from making X number of dollars to making nothing and having nothing. We had a dream of that furniture business. We believed it was going to be a certain type of a store. We believed it was going to do things, and we worked like dogs for that goal. I worked 80 hours a week, 7 days a week. I took off a day here and there. And most of the time when I took the day off, I couldn't even enjoy it because stuff was going on in the business that I had to answer and deal with. I remember one time we went on a vacation to Las Vegas. Dana took me to the Mirage when I was 30 years old. That's a long time ago. We were there for 5 days. When I came, every day there was a problem at the furniture store that I had to deal with. I'm on vacation and I'm dealing with all these problems, and I got home and got to the store the next day, and I regretted that I even went away because I had so much to deal with when I got back. So we dealt with all of that. So when we closed that store, in spite of all those problems, it was my dream to have that furniture store because I wanted to carry on the legacy of my father, who had died 12 years before.
And I'm going to mention something. You also didn't have the confidence, and correct me if I'm wrong, we are speaking just like off the cuff here with this. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you did not have the confidence that you could do something else and be as successful.
Yeah, that's true. And the reason why is my mother told me for years I could never make as much money in the outside world as I did in this furniture store. Now, your mother and father should be one of your biggest cheerleaders, right? Many of you have had parents who haven't been your cheerleaders or have hurt you in some way or have left you or have whatever. Those are challenges that you have to overcome. Maybe somebody told you when you were a kid that you had to be perfect. And you have guilt every time you make a mistake. There's all kinds of situations that we are all dealing with. So when we said, when looking back, we say, well, it was the best day of our life, is because it led us to this business. Now, in the 18 months, from the time we closed our business until the time we got in the Amway business, we had opened up other businesses. Why? Because I always wanted to be in business for myself. I was taught, my father hammered that into my brain, always be in business for yourself. He said, if you're going to be a doctor, have your own practice. If you're going to be an attorney, open up your own office. If you want to be an accountant, open up your own accounting firm and have other accountants work for you. Have other doctors be in your group. But you can make more money being in business for yourself than working for someone, because you will only get paid what the job position is worth, not what you're worth. And I'm not knocking jobs. I'm telling you the truth. I'm telling you what I believe is reality. That does not mean a job is bad. There are many people here that have big jobs, that make a lot of money in their job. And I commend you for being responsible and being accountable and for being a person of integrity and doing the right things at your job and taking an interest in your job. But as far as I was taught, there was no way I ever wanted to work for someone and put my all into their company as opposed to my company. So when I built the furniture business, when we built it together, I never questioned the price we had to pay because it was our business. My mistake was that I had all the responsibility and no benefit from that business. And when my mother and sister stole from us and we had debt, we now were saddled with this tremendous hole, this tremendous mountain we had to climb without any equipment. So it led us to this business. And I was talking to some people today, honey, and I was talking about when we built it originally, back then it was a different business. Well, with the generation we're dealing with today, you can't call anybody, right? Nobody answers their phone. You see a number you don't recognize. Oh, who is that? It's the boogeyman. What's the boogeyman calling me for? It's like a disease. The bubonic plague. Someone called me. I'm going to get the disease if I answer the call. What's the worst thing that can happen if you answer the call? You end it. Okay, so nobody answers the call. So we can't talk to people quickly enough to do that other way. And quite frankly, that's not the way to build a business. I believe that what we're doing today is the right way to do it. Spending the time on the front end as opposed to the back end. The way we used to build it was you spent it on the back end. You surprised them with different things that they had to be involved with because you never disclosed everything. Not because you didn't want to disclose it. We just didn't do it because we were so quick. Came to a meeting, sponsor them. You didn't want to get sponsored? We never saw you again. Now we're spending time. So this is the right way to do it. But the point is my mentality, the way I was taught the business, was that just put people in. Some of them people are going to stick, and you'll find and develop leaders along the way. And you build depth, and you find leaders in depth, and that's the way you do it. And it could be a fairly quick process. And we went platinum quickly. And we went emerald quickly. And we were primed and ready to go diamond. And then things changed in the business. No fault of mine. The business changed. We went from an offline business to an online business, which, thank God for today, we have direct fulfillment. You know what direct fulfillment is? You get the products directly from the company. We didn't do it that way when we got in. We had to supply our organization with the product. We had what was called product pickup. What do you mean product pickup? Yeah, you had to come to our house and pick up the product that we ordered for you. Yeah. We had something called a fax machine. A fax machine, you injected the paper into the fax machine and it transmitted a picture of the paper with the writing on it to another fax machine. So they faxed us their order every week and then we ordered it and they came and picked it up. You may say, wow, that was antiquated. No, that was the only way we knew.
And we had to call in our orders.
Oh, on the phone. Okay? So when we switched the business, when the business changed, all of our people were our age and they were not computer literate. Now, you guys that are under the age of 40, right? You have a computer, it's injected into your hand when you're a kid. Your children, if you have kids today, they're playing with a computer at 2 years old, right? They're amazing. Why? Because a phone is a computer. Your phone is more powerful than the greatest computer 30 years ago. All right, when we went to Michigan State University, the kids that were in computer science, the room for the computer was from that wall to here. They used to carry around these pieces of paper that had holes in the side of them, and they fed it into the computer. And I used to look at them and go, meat, mot, meat, mot, meat, mot, meat, mot.
And there was, it was something called DOS. Remember DOS?
Oh, yeah. So anyway, the point is that our business is much better today. It's much more efficient. The products are much better. Everything about our business is more proficient, but we made it work. But here's my point. I created 7,500 PV in 3 legs because I sponsored so many people and Dana was so good at creating volume. 7,500 PV showed up in 3 legs. But we didn't develop leaders because we didn't know how to do that. Okay. So now we went from a big team to a small team and we had to rebuild. And I'm not going to go into the whole story of rebuilding, but what had to change? Vinny Pappalardo and Dana Pappalardo had to change. You know, I've often said I read 300 books in 5 years. Do you think that when I got in this business, I had a goal of reading 300 books? Are you kidding me? I hated to read. Who did not read a book after college? I didn't read a book after high school, basically. I read the very minimum in college. Why? Who enjoys a chemistry book? Oh, yes, you know, this is that and that. Get out of here. Just give me the answers. Who goes online in college and gets the answers and take the test? I know there's some cheaters out there. Okay. So isn't it funny that we get into a business, you now are in business for yourself, and the reason it takes time for you to build it is that you don't know what you're doing. No more than we knew what we were doing. But what I learned when we lost our team is I looked at myself and I said, what did I need to change? Now, we had started to change some of those things, but here's an example. My father didn't know a little bit about a few things. He thought he knew everything about everything. Anybody have a father like that? Now, when you talk to your father like that, and well, forget that. When you talk to people, has that rubbed off on you? It rubbed off on me. I followed what my father taught me. Just like when my parents would argue, they would throw shoes at each other and yell at each other. Dana's parents would have a discussion, and when it got too heated, Ed would say to Val, oh, well, Val, I think we should separate for a little while. You go in that room, I'll stay in this room, and then we'll come back out. When my parents argued, it was like a war. So what do you think I was like when we got married at 19 years old? When I got mad, it was a war. okay? It was a war, but I was the only one who was warring. Now it's reverse. She's the warrior. I'm like, oh, come on, will you stop, all right? I'll leave the room and do what Ed and Val did, and she gets pissed and chases me. I shut the doors in my office, she slams them open and go, oh, that's what, you're walking away? No, I'm trying to avoid throwing shoes at each other.
We never did that.
No, we've never done that. All right, but my point is very simple. I had to learn something from a bad behavior that my father taught me. I had to learn how to listen to you. There's a word that's very important. It's called empathy. Empathy is one of the most important words in the English language. Why? In order to be effective in listening, one of the traits I believe you need to have is empathy. And empathy is a desire to understand you. It's not sympathy. I'm not going to give you sympathy for your problems. I'm going to have empathy for you. So that if I listen to you, now I can understand why you think the way you do. So in order to be, I think, an effective leader, you need to be able to listen to people. I learned that dramatically at the board because there's a lot of smart people at the board. And I'm a smart guy. Dana's smart. But we're not the only smart ones there. And when you don't listen to others, you miss great ideas. When you're so anxious to speak over people because you're not interested in what they have to say, you're only interested in what you're going to say, you miss great ideas and you offend others. So you have to learn to listen. Some of the greatest leaders are the last to speak in a group. They take in everything everyone says and then they formulate an opinion or they formulate what they would like to say to be most effective so people understand. So in this business, we start hearing things like integrity and accountability and trustworthiness. Have some of you struggled with trusting? I had a gentleman say to me a couple weeks ago, he said, Vin, my ego doesn't allow me to listen or trust, my upline when they give me advice. I said, well, it's not your ego. I don't believe it's your ego. I believe it's that you have trust issues. Why? Probably someone hurt you along the way in your life. Someone close to you. I had trust issues when I got in. Why? My mother and sister, who were supposed to love me, stole from us. Created a problem in our life. We ended up losing our house. We lost everything. So, there are things you start to hear, and it starts to challenge you. Jody said it tonight. Your word is your worth, and your worth is your word. You heard Steve and Joe Victor say it. People before profits. Always make people decisions, never money decisions. At your job or your company, they probably make money decisions over people decisions. And maybe some of you have an issue with that now because you're learning the difference between integrity and what integrity is, and you don't like the fact that you're working for a company that doesn't have any. So we get challenged in this business. The reason it takes time to build it is not so much the effort, it's understanding what we have to become and making the change, because forged in time means exactly that. It's not a fast process to learn. We had to rebuild our team, but what happened was this. The first time we built it, I thought I had leaders. I thought I had people that were going to stick with us. And they were guys that I loved, and they supposedly loved me. And then they all quit Because people who don't have a heart for the business, a heart for the Amway business, and a heart for the community and the culture, when the going gets tough, they leave. But when you're ingrained in the culture and you believe in this, they can't cut you out of this with a chainsaw. There was no way I was going to quit. I had seen too much. When you come to your first event, you've seen too much. And if you leave, I'm sorry for you. Because I know what you're going to deal with for the rest of your life. You're not going to be in control necessarily of your future. And maybe you're going to make excuses. It's not so bad. Oh, I work from home. That's the new one I hear. I work from home. Really? In your one-bedroom apartment? Is that the home you're talking about? I'm talking about choices. The choices for you to be able to make long-term because you put in the effort. And I can't guarantee you success. But I don't understand how people who get in this business come to functions, they have their job, they work and they make money at their job, and then they have to put in an hour or 2 or 3 a night, 2 or 3 or 4 nights a week, give up because it's too hard. This is nothing compared to owning a conventional business. My furniture store, this is a joke. People always say to me, well, why are you so enthusiastic? Because you should have seen me and Dana when we owned the furniture store. I got in at 6 in the morning. I didn't leave at 6 at night. I was stressed out. On Sunday, I remember in the summer, Dana would be with Tony and Danielle in the swimming pool, and I had to leave to go to the store and work on a beautiful summer day. It used to kill me. My dream was to be with my kids and my wife and my one-day grandchildren. And I was willing to work and do whatever I had to do, whatever we had to do for as long as we had to do, because, it's about doing the right thing, the right way, the right time. Part of your struggle is learning how to do it right. And then deciding to do it often enough to have success. Right?
Yeah, I was just going to say, and I think another thing that sometimes is a problem for people is maybe you think you're really good at something. We thought we were really good in business, and I remember one time Vinny saying to me when he heard me on the phone, because I had come off of, I was still managing a team of 20 sales reps, and I was their boss. And now I was in the Amway business. And I had a team, we had a team, and I remember getting off the phone one time, and I didn't put it in here. I didn't realize this was also their team. This was their business. And I was trying to boss these people around. And I remember Vinny saying to me, you need to read a book. And he had recommended a book to me at that time. But I had to look at myself and say, I need to change. Because I told that person who told me they couldn't come to a function, instead of saying, okay, if that's how you feel, and not worrying about it, finding somebody else. Instead, I told them, great, you know what? Do me a favor, stay home, and you don't have to come to any functions, and I'll handle your people. That was my management answer to them.
And she came to the function, but it wasn't she wasn't the right person anyway. So getting back to our journey, when we lost everything and we had to come back and rebuild it, I had to look in the mirror. And my biggest fear was committing to people that might leave me. because the people who left me really hurt. I really hurt. Because I was building the business with them, so I benefited. So we benefited. I didn't care whether they benefited. I cared whether I benefited. Paradigm shift. That's when I realized, and that's when I forgave my mother and sister, and that's when my heart was freed, and I could now serve people without expectation of receiving anything in return. So I learned how to build the business and treat people the right way. But if I wanted to help them, I helped them. And if I didn't want to help them, I didn't help them. So you cannot hurt me. Why can't you hurt me? Because I will not help you unless I want to help you. And I will not help you for my good. I will help you for your good. And I'll spend 80% of the time with 20% of my people and 20% of the time with 80% of the people. I'm not in a charity. I'm looking for the people who want our help. You should be looking for the people, as Lewis said. You're not using the process to register people. You're looking for the right people. Can you always know who the right person is? No, but you can serve the people that want to be served, and you help them because you want to help them, not because you're going to make money off of them. That is the wrong attitude. We are not in the business of making money off of people. We're in the business of helping people to help themselves live a better life. That's the goal. So now I'm excited all the time. I've always been excited, but I understand that the fruits, what we reap is what we sow. So if you sow love, if you sow work ethic, if you sow respect, if you sow accountability, if you sow character, you will reap those traits. If you treat your upline with respect, you will get respect. Your downline will respect you. Dana said it before. What you do to your upline, your downline will do to you. Ask yourself this question. Do I want 1,000 people on my team like me? If you can't answer that question yes, then change. Change. Become a better person. So the reason that it takes time to build this, it's not that physically hard. We have to learn how to work with people and treat them and do to them what you want done to yourself. Do unto others as you would do unto yourself. That's not the world, unfortunately. You're learning something that's completely contradictory to what you hear on social media and in the news every single day. And people are quiet about it. They don't want to be challenged. People are so afraid what other people think of them. It's funny, we laugh all the time. People come to our house. We have a doorbell. Nobody uses it. Nobody knocks on the door. You come to my house and you text me and tell me you're outside. What is that? I don't get that. I didn't want to bother you. Okay, why'd you come to my house? Did you expect me not to answer the door? Like, what's up with that? Were you not taught that there's a doorbell? I get a text. I'm outside. Congratulations. Would you like to come in? Ring the bell. I think that there is an obstacle that has been built into many people. And the obstacle is that you have been coddled so much that you don't know what it is to be on your own and to struggle. And see, struggle is good because it will shape you if you look at it in a positive way. I always ask God, what do you want me to learn from this? I never say, why me, Dad? Why me, God? Don't say that. What do you want me to learn from this? please understand that this business is going to shape you and mold you into the person, this is just my opinion, that God intended you to be, if you follow the principles that we teach you. And I always say to people, don't follow me, follow my principles. I'm a man and I can screw up, but principles never change. We have a goal of helping you become the best you can be, but we can't make you the best you can be. You have to participate. And every choice you make is going to determine where you are when you're our age. Make the right choice. You want a relationship with your upline? Then do something in the business. People call me all the time, call Dan, they say, I want to develop a close relationship with you so I can build the business. No, you need to build the business and then we'll develop a close relationship. Why? Because you'll have something to talk to me about. Because I'm not going to talk to you about football, baseball, softball, basketball, hockey. That's not how we're going to build a friendship, because my friendship is going to be built with you in this business, and not everyone in my business is my best friend. This is not new friend of best friend of the month club. Everyone you sponsor is not your best friend. It takes time to develop a real relationship. How do you do that? You spend time with an individual. You want to learn about something? Read a book. You want to build a relationship with somebody? Spend time with them. You want to get to know Dana and I? Spend time with us. That's how you do it. You want to know your upline? Spend time with them. It's a choice, folks. But I understand that it's going to take time for you to change, because it's taken us time. And we're still not where we want to be, because it's a lifelong journey. And I believe it's the most worthy journey you can be on, is to become the best you can be. God bless you guys.
For the calendar year 2024, the average income from Amway for all U.S.